Hey guys, today I'm going to share with you one of the recipes that you guys keep requesting over and over again. So I thought it was high time to get to it. Homemade tiramisu. I love homemade tiramisu. It is one of the easiest desserts to make because it can all be made the day before. In fact, it's even better if you make it the day before. How great is that? Now, traditionally, tiramisu is made with ladyfingers, which are a sponge-like cookie that you can find at Italian markets and sometimes fancier supermarkets. But I always have a hard time finding them, and I live in a big major city. So I thought if I had a hard time finding them, you probably would too. So I thought, wouldn't it just be great if we could make our own version of a ladyfinger? And that's what we're going to do with just simple ingredients you can find at any grocery store. So the first thing we're going to do is whip together some eggs and some sugar. You really need an electric mixer for this because you want to make sure that those eggs get nice and fluffy. It's going to take about 5 to 7 minutes. Once it reaches that stage, then go ahead and add some vanilla and give it another good whisk. Then in a separate bowl, you're going to mix together some flour, some baking powder, and a little bit of salt. Go ahead and whisk that up until it's combined and then set it aside. Then in a separate container, you're going to add some milk and some olive oil. I just go ahead and mix them together, seeing as how they're both going in at the same time, it doesn't really matter. It'll save you a dish to wash. Add the flour mixture in thirds, alternating with the milk and the oil mixture. So you just do a little bit of flour, a little bit of oil and milk, and continue that way until everything is combined and you have a beautiful batter on your hands. I always like to pour batter into the center of the pan because then that way you can work your way out and assure that you're getting a nice even layer. Now you may be thinking, oh, it doesn't look like there's enough batter for this pan, but trust me, there is, and we're not looking for a big thick cake, we're really just looking for a thin cake because remember, we're going to make 2 layers of it for our tiramisu. The final step is just to take that pan and give it a good whack on the countertop. You want to do that because there are a lot of air bubbles in this batter because we've whipped those eggs so much. You're going to pop your cake in the oven for about 10 minutes. While our cake is baking, we're going to prep our coffee mixture. So traditionally, tiramisu is made with espresso. And if you have an espresso machine, this is a great time to use it because it really adds a wonderful flavor. But I get that not everybody may have an espresso machine. So you can also use just really good, strong coffee. So you want to go ahead and transfer your espresso or your coffee into a shallow dish. You don't want it to be too deep because we are going to be using this vessel to dip our cake into. And if it's too deep, your cake is just going to kind of sink to the bottom and it'll be harder to get out. Now here are 2 tips to make this dessert a little bit more family friendly. Tip number 1 is to use decaf espresso or decaf coffee. That way, if you have children around and they want to try it, they're not going to be bouncing off the walls from all the espresso. The other thing that I do is instead of using rum, I'll use rum extract. So that's the next step in this process, is I do think that the flavor is enhanced with a little bit of rum extract. Now, if you do drink and there are no children around, go ahead and use real rum. That's also good too. Then we're just going to set this mixture aside. Then when your cake is completely cooled, you're going to go ahead and cut it into rectangles. These will become our ladyfingers. You're just going to pile them on a plate and get them ready for their coffee bath. Now we can get on with making the filling for our tiramisu. So we're going to whip together some heavy cream, some powdered sugar, and some vanilla. Go ahead and whip that up just until stiff peaks form, and then transfer your whipped cream to a separate bowl and then pop it in the fridge. We're going to use it a little bit later, but you want to keep it refrigerated until you need it. Now, here's where it gets controversial because most often tiramisu is made with raw eggs, raw egg yolks and raw egg whites, and that is what makes it so delicious and fluffy. You've all been to those Italian restaurants where you bite into the tiramisu and you feel like you're eating a cloud. Chances are it's because of the raw eggs. So I did some experimentation because I know that there are health risks associated with eating raw eggs, and not everybody likes to take that risk, myself included. So I was able to figure out that if you use the pasteurized egg product, which actually has been heated to such a degree to kill any bacteria that can cause salmonella, it actually works. So in a clean bowl, you're going to add the pasteurized egg product or your raw egg yolks, whichever one you're most comfortable using, and some sugar. Go ahead and beat that up just until it doubles in volume and becomes really nice and fluffy. Now, if you're using raw eggs, the real egg yolks, it'll only take about 5 minutes to reach this state. If you're using the pasteurized egg product, it will take you a good 15 minutes. Now, just hang in there because when I tried it the first time, I did it for about 10 minutes and I kept thinking, oh, this isn't gonna work. And then I got kind of sidetracked and I was doing something else and I came back to my mixture. Lo and behold, I had fluffy egg yolk product. It works perfectly, so just give it time. It's gonna take a good 15 minutes. Meanwhile, we're going to take out another large bowl And to that, we're going to add some mascarpone cheese. You do want to make sure that it is at room temperature, otherwise it can be very hard to mix and incorporate with our whipped cream if it's cold. And then go ahead and get your whipped cream from the fridge, and you're going to fold it into the cheese. Just little by little, making sure you don't deflate your whipped cream, but that you are incorporating the mascarpone into the cream. And once that's done, you're then going to add your egg mixture. And this is what is going to take this filling over the moon. You're going to end up with a really wonderful, fluffy mixture that will make your tiramisu as light as a cloud. So go ahead and take that egg mixture and just a little bit at a time, again, being careful not to deflate it, fold it into your whipped cream mixture. Once it's all mixed in, now is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's assemble the tiramisu. Okay, to assemble, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take one piece of cake and dip it into your coffee mixture just about a second on each side. You don't want to go any further than that because you don't want to have a cake that's too drenched with the coffee. Just a second. So if it helps you to remember, just dip it in and go Beth, Beth, and you're done. You're going to do that for about half the cake just until your bottom layer is completely full. And don't worry about getting the pieces completely tight and squared up. It's actually better if you do have a little bit of room in between the cake because that beautiful filling is going to soak into all those crevices and create a really delicious dessert. You're then going to take about half your filling, pour it over the top, and just smooth it out just until it's nice and covered. To that, you're then going to add about 2 tablespoons of the cocoa powder. Go ahead and give it a good shake. And then on top of that, you're going to add some grated chocolate. I really like the addition of the grated chocolate because I think it's good to get a little bit of texture in a dessert like this that's pretty soft. And then once that's done, you're going to add your second layer of cake. You're just going to repeat the exact same process. You're going to take the cake, you're going to dip it into the coffee, add another layer. Once you've got your second layer of soaked cake down, you're then going to add the rest of the filling. Go ahead and smooth it all over the top. Add your cocoa powder and your bittersweet chocolate. And basically the dessert is done. The only other thing that I do is take a paper towel just to kind of clean up the edges and make the dish a little bit more presentable, which will look nice when you bring it to the table. Then you're going to cover it with some foil and you're going to pop it in the fridge for at least an hour or 2. I really feel that this helps the dessert firm up because remember that filling isn't exactly firm, but it will firm up when you put it in the fridge. It's even better if you can do it overnight because then all of that delicious coffee flavor soaks into the cake and it's even better. When it comes time to serve, go ahead and cut it into some generous squares. And if you want to be extra fancy, you can also garnish with a chocolate-covered espresso bean. I love this recipe because it is so light, it is so delicious, and so decadent. And when you tell people that you have made your own homemade tiramisu, including the sponge cake, they will be completely floored, I promise. Go ahead and give it a try and let me know how it goes. And I'll see you back here next week for another delicious recipe. Bye. If you like this recipe, you might also like my homemade profiteroles served with warm chocolate sauce. Or Bananas Foster, another festive dessert that comes together in minutes. If you're looking for chocolate, you might like my Foolproof Fudgy Brownies, decadent for sure.